There's one more issue that I wanted to reflect on in terms of the influence of our colonizers and the European justice system, the British justice system on Caribbean lawyers, and that's the dress code. This has always been an issue for me. Black and white. Why is this? And are we ever going to see anything that is more reflective of the vibrancy and the diversity of Caribbean culture?
Yeah, that's not something I've ever given a lot of thought to. The idea is that in the court, the officials, the judges, the lawyers, should be dressed in, the word is sober colors. That again is a practice that we have inherited. Would vibrant colors detract from the delivery of justice? Why should it?
The color schemes don't color justice.
Yeah, I see that point.
To push my argument, I just want to quote, I'm not sure if I'm quoting you or if I'm quoting Kenneth John. But what is independence if the sources and influences of our jurisprudence are foreign? And one of the influences is that dress code, apart from, well, the common law that we've inherited.
But what is paramount is proper decorum, modest dress, dress that does not in any way demean the court, dress that exalts the court as a solemn place, as a place that is deeply respected as a sanctum of justice. But I take your point. Does that always have to be in black and white? I must say, in fairness to us, we have dispensed with the black robes. Our robes are yellow and gold.
All right.
So the judges have eschewed the notion of this black robe, but we still have robes, yellow, nice yellow and gold.
What caused the change and the choice of color?
I think the idea was to reflect the gold as the Caribbean sun and the blue as the sky on the sea. The idea was to Caribbeanize the robes. So that there has been some, so far as the judges are concerned, some attempt to meet your point, but it has remained the same for the lawyers, that they have these. Well, actually what we did, we did a kind of a cop-out for the lawyers. What we did is to say that whatever you are required or you are accustomed to wear in your local courts, then that would be the dress that we require at our court. So you have a situation where the Guyanese lawyers, for example, they don't wear the things that look like a bib. They call them bands. They don't wear them. Instead, they wear a tie. And they are perfectly at home at the CCJ wearing their tie instead of their bands. But they wear black robes as well.
It's going to happen. It is going to happen.
Yeah. It's part and parcel of interrogating those influences, whether they be laws or practices that we have adopted, inherited from the colonizer, and assessing the extent to which they are useful and they add value, and doing something about it if we find that they don't add value.
I want to go a bit away from your professional life and more into your personal life and your earlier days. Excuse me. your mom was very active within the St.Vincent Labour Party, and your dad, he was in the People's Political Party. And you chose your own path with ULIMO, which eventually became the United People's Movement. Why was that?
Yeah, actually, my parents were involved in politics a little bit before my time. I'm the last of five. And so I had never, there was a point in time, I think, when they each decided to not, I suppose politics in St. Vincent had begun to be very polarizing, and they each decided to step back from party politics, so that I had never known them to be. In fact, it's Kenneth John who first told me, because they never said any, my mother never said to me that she had run for the Labour Party as on the Kingston board elections. It's Kenneth John who first told me that when I was, not a toddler. So what impressed me about them both is that, I think I may have mentioned this before, they were all about selfless service. I think they translated that maybe latent political desire into community service. And so my father was president of the Teachers Association, Teachers Union, president of Red Cross. They were in all sorts of different community organizations. And that kind of selfless service to the community is what I think has rubbed off on me to a large extent. The impetus to serving led me in the 70s to associate with, not just associate, to join ULIMO, which was an organization that championed independence, social justice, which was anti-establishment to a considerable degree. Also, we were very much involved in raising the level of consciousness of Vincentians. And I was with ULIMO, eventually became United People's Movement, which contested elections in 1979 with Dr. Gonsalves as the leader. And then he splintered off, formed his own party, and then UPM kind of collapsed. I gave more interest to my law practice, and then that was it. I sort of streamed off into law and the judiciary. But those are years which I think also, first of all, they helped me to know St. Vincent and Vincentians a lot better. As a political activist, you up and down the country, meeting people, seeing how people live, getting a better insight into, the underdevelopment of the country and ways in which that underdevelopment can be ameliorated. So I not only do I not regret those days, but there's nothing to regret about them from my standpoint, but I think those helped to make me the kind of person I am today.
Apart from the legacy of having molded Honourable Justice Adrian Saunders, what would you say was the legacy of the UPM ULIMO?
ULIMO and UPM were amazing organizations when you think about them in the context of what you see today. Those organizations forged a discipline, a desire on the part of the members to study, to engage in very deep discussions about the country, about the region, about the world in general. When I reflect on the kinds of discussions that we had as persons in you know early 20s, and you compare that to the kinds of discussions that you hear persons in the early 20s having today. But I suppose it's an unfair comparison because these were different times. The 1970s, we were proceeding towards independence. The horrors of colonialism, the desire to escape colonialism, the discussion as to what should replace colonialism, those were on the table for discussion. Those were the most important issues of the day. As a youngster, you couldn't escape them. And so those things helped to fashion, your whole outlook on life. And it is not surprising that a lot of the members of the UPM went on to achieve very important positions in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, because there was a thorough preparation that those organizations would have given them.
You grew up in a Christian household. Your mom was a Catholic and your dad was a Methodist. He was a Methodist lay preacher, as a matter of fact. And yet for a while, you seemed to be very interested in the Rastafari faith. What led you down that path?
Well, Rastafari, like Ulimo, was anti-establishment. I never was a Rasta, but I was very close to Rastafarians. I never personally held some of the ideological, philosophical positions of genuine Rastas about Selassie and so on. But nevertheless, a lot of Rasta brethren I was close to, and there was a kinship that I felt with them, the genuineness, the desire for greater social justice. I remember a trip that I made on one of the federal boats, Federal Palm, going up to Jamaica, and there was this Rasta guy from Grenada that he and I hit it off on the boat. He was obsessed with Bob Marley, utterly obsessed with Bob Marley and Jamaican reggae music. And the day we got to Jamaica, the boat docked like 7 in the morning. In the afternoon, he came up on the campus and says, Adrian, I went down in Trenchtown and I saw a big youth and Jacob Miller. I didn't see Bob. They say he's living up in 56 Hope Road. Let's go. So we went. And we met Bob Marley. And he entertained us. Those were two of the most incredible hours of my life. He carried us upstairs and chatted, talked about the Rastafari communities in the Caribbean. He was very concerned about what was happening in Dominica. That was the time that passed the Dread Act. Now, Bob was an international superstar at that time, but he found the time to entertain 3 starry-eyed youth men from the Eastern Caribbean and to chat with them, that wouldn't happen now. But that was really a magic.
Well, it's interesting that you would say that, because I wonder how much of that rubbed off on the Honourable Justice Adrian Saunders, because recently I was actually privileged to see Justice Saunders interact with 2 children that he had never seen in his life and treat them like old friends and chat with them. And I mean, who has time to chat with children that they don't even know when they have limited time where they are anyway? And I was really impressed by that. And I know one of the things that people would say about you is that you are known to be humble, you're unbiased, you're generous, you're liberal-minded. And that's what we see from the outside. What would your children say? What would your sons say?
You really like? I don't know. I suspect they're prouder than that. We have a very tight, close-knit family unit. We try to take vacations together. And for two grown boys, men, to still enjoy going on vacation with their parents and, of course, with their girlfriends and spouses. It you know, we genuinely have a good time when we go on vacation.
So it must be true then.
I guess.
And the fact that you have these enduring personal relationships, you've been married for so long, and you have your childhood friends who are still friends of yours today. When you come to St. Vincent or you go anywhere where you have friends, you always make time to visit these people and catch up with them. What drives that, and what's the secret to the success of these personal relationships?
Yeah, but the truth is, I wish I had even more time, because there's so many persons that I feel I would like to catch up with that I haven't for quite some time. But I don't know what's the secret. I suppose it's, you know, something that I got from my parents. For me, every human being has worth, has dignity. And if you look carefully enough, you will see that worth. You will see the value. You will be able to find a connection with persons who you've been to school with, you played cricket, football, table tennis with, as the case may be. I went to a funeral just recently. My cousin passed, and I was really pleased that I saw a lot of persons that I hadn't seen before. And especially when you don't live in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Effectively, I have not lived in St. Vincent since 1996. And so people who you've gone to school with or you had some connection with, you don't see them often. It really is a joyous thing for me to catch up with them. I feel blessed by being able to, share all experiences with them. And my impression is that they also enjoy that little bit of camaraderie that we could share after so many years.
The law takes up a considerable amount of your time. What are your passions outside of the law?
Outside of the law, I suppose I still am very passionate about cricket. I follow cricket internationally. Sports generally. I'm passionate about Caribbean integration. I really do think that these little dots in the Caribbean Sea need each other. I was in Chile a couple of weeks ago, and I had a lot of discussions with some Brazilians. Brazil had 220 something million people. You're from a country of 110,000 people, and you figure that you're this big nation, you know. The point is that on a world scale, even if we might produce exceptional individuals like Sobers, Usain Bolt, Derek Walcott, you know, we are still very small, almost insignificant countries. We need each other. We have so much more to give if we were to maximize the integration that is possible while everyone wants to retain their sovereignty. And that is an experiment that I think we have been faltering on. and we need to do more about. And of course, I'm very passionate about justice, all forms of justice.
Do you think you'll ever be able to retire? I mean, I know in 2 years' time you retire from the Caribbean Court of Justice, but as a professional contributing to Caribbean life, to education, to Caribbean justice, do you think you'd be able to retire?
I'm actually beginning to look forward to retirement from the court, when I won't have the same demanding obligations. But I have no doubt that after 2025, I would still be active. I don't know where and how life will take me, what precisely what I'll do, but I would still remain active, but at least I would have the luxury of being able to determine what I want to do and when I want to do it, as distinct from having a grinding routine where you have a continuing set of obligations that you absolutely must meet. So when I think about the freedom that retirement would give me, so far as that is concerned, I really am beginning to look forward to it. But I have no doubt that I would still be active in some form or the other.
What brings you the greatest pride at this time?
The greatest pride? I don't know. I suppose to see Vincentians, to see Caribbean people, and particularly Vincentians, see them excel internationally. That is one of the things that gives me a lot of pride, quite frankly.
And you've had so many accomplishments and there's so many praises and accolades heaped on you. What would you say, though, was your most humbling experience?
I don't know. I suppose being selected as president of the court, being selected as one of the persons on the Global Judicial and Television Network. These are not questions that I think about a lot. I don't know. Throughout life, I have simply just done what's before me and done it to the best of my ability. I'm not big on marking stuff like this. I just go through life and do what must be done.
It's quite obvious that you don't give that much thought and that you are truly a humble person, because I asked you what brings you the most pride. And what makes you most proud is the accomplishments of Caribbean people. And what makes you most humble is how we feel about you and where we want you to represent us. So to me, that just says it all. Now, we're coming to, the end of this interview, and I know I'm going to put you on the spot again, because I guess this is not something that you've considered either. But what would you like your legacy to be?
I don't think about that at all. That's a question that, to me, that's for other people to answer. As I said, I do what I've been either selected to do, nominated to do, approved to do. But the impact that it has, that's for other people. I don't know. I do the best I can, and I hope that other people find some merit in it. What I do is never with a view to any kind of self-aggrandizement or to lay down some kind of monument to me or a marker. Those things don't, and I'm very honest, don't really make much, I don't dwell on them at all.
Well, I know I can say from my own personal experience that there will be a long list when the list is compiled. It's going to be long, and there are going to be many people contributing to that list. I want to thank you very much for being here, for being such an iconic Vincentian, and for being such a role model to so many people. And on this program, Pure Vincy, we like to celebrate iconic Vincentians. We like to celebrate their achievements, their accomplishments, their contributions, whether to St. Vincent and the Caribbean, or as in your case, to the entire world. There's a question that I ask each of my guests just before we wrap up, and that is, what in your mind does Pure Vincy mean?
Pure Vincy. First of all, what makes St. Vincent Grenadines so special? I think our fertile volcanic soil that allows anything to grow anywhere gives us a multitude of sweet and abundant fruit. I really think that that is an essential aspect of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I think the Grenadines are a piece of heaven on earth. And so Pure Vincy means appreciating these things. Pure Vincy means that we honor and treasure those who made a defining contribution to this little part of the Caribbean, whether in the field of literature, people like Tim Daisy, Shay Keane, Peggy Carr, or in the professions like Dr. Sister Cyrus, my own departed cousin Adrian Saunders, Norma Keyser. In music, people like Frank McIntosh, Beckett, Soso, Skinny Fabulous. Or in sports, you know, the netballers of the 60s. Few people recognize that in the 60s, St. Vincent dominated Caribbean netball. People like Uriel Campbell and Peggy Ince and others. Mike Findley, Winston Davis, business people like the Veras, Philip Vera, Adolf Vera, O.T. Mayers, the hucksters that we have who brave the seas and market their crops from that good volcanic soil in Barbados, in Trinidad. I think Pure Vincy means celebrating all these things, these people, and finding a kinship with them. We all are from this blessed place that we call St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Justice Saunders, thank you so much for being here and for being my guest on Pure Vincy. It was indeed an honor to have spoken with you this evening. My guest on Pure Vincy this evening, the Honourable Justice Adrian Saunders, President of the Caribbean Court of Justice, and so much more.
Thank you so much. Thank you.